didn't scream. I wanted to, but I didn't. I just stood there in my own kitchen. And the house I built was my own hands 31 years ago. And I watched my daughter slide a manila envelope across the granite counter like she was offering me a coupon for something I didn't need. "Dad," she said, "it's the right move. You know it is." Her husband was standing behind her, arms crossed, wearing that look he always wore when he thought he'd already won something. I'd never liked that look. I'd never said so. I should have said so. A long time ago. The envelope sat between us. I didn't touch it. Let me back up. My name is Richard Callahan. I'm 68 years old. I spent 40 years as a structural engineer, mostly commercial builds. A few bridges, one hospital in Northern Virginia that I'm still proud of every time I drive past it. I retired at 64, healthy, financially comfortable, and genuinely looking forward to the next chapter. My wife, Patricia, no, I need to stop. I cannot use that name. My wife, Gloria, passed away 4 years ago from pancreatic cancer. 11 months from diagnosis to the end, the fastest, cruelest 11 months of my life. After she died, I rattled around in this house alone for about a year. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a garage workshop where I built furniture on weekends, and a backyard that Gloria had filled with hydrangeas. I kept watering them. I didn't know what else to do. I have 2 children. My son Adrian lives in Portland with his wife and their 2 kids. We talk on Sundays. He's a good man, steady, honest, asks nothing from me except my time. Then there's my daughter, Melissa. She's 41. She married a man named Trevor. No, I cannot use that name either. She married a man named Donovan 6 years ago, and from the first Thanksgiving he sat at my table. Something about him felt like a loose thread I couldn't find the end of. I never said so. I should have. Melissa had always been the one who paid attention to the financial details. When Gloria was sick, Melissa handled the insurance calls, the billing disputes, the pharmacy reorders. She was efficient and capable, and I was grateful. When Gloria died, Melissa was the one who sat with the estate attorney with me, helped me understand the paperwork, made sure everything was properly transferred. I trusted her completely. That was my first mistake. Not trusting her without washing what she did with that trust. About 2 years ago, Donovan's landscaping business started struggling. I knew because Melissa mentioned it once, casually, the way you mentioned weather. I offered to lend them some money, $20,000 to help cover payroll through a slow quarter. Melissa cried and hugged me and said I was the best father in the world. Donovan shook my hand too hard the way men do when they're relieved and trying not to show it. I never asked for the money back. I didn't need to. It wasn't about the money. But I think that's when Donovan started seeing me differently. Not as Melissa's father, as a resource. Things shifted slowly. Melissa started calling more often, which I liked at first. Then the call started having a point. Could I co-sign a business loan? Could I help them refinance their mortgage? Could I? And this one landed strangely when she said it. Consider moving into something smaller, at my age, so the house wouldn't be such a burden. I was 66. I had just rebuilt the back deck myself. I was not burdened. I told her I was fine. She said, of course, she's just worried about me. I believed her. The birthday party was her idea. She called in February and said she wanted to throw me a 70th. I told her I was 68, not 70, and she laughed and said she wanted to do it early while everyone could still travel. A big celebration, Dad. You deserve it. She'd handle everything. I just had to show up. I should have wondered why she was so insistent on handling everything. The party was held at a rented event space in Reston, about 40 minutes from my house. 60 guests, old colleagues, neighbors. Adrian flew in from Portland with the grandkids, people I hadn't seen in years. It was genuinely lovely for the first 2 hours. I had a bourbon. I danced once with my neighbor Edna, who is 74 and still leads a line dance class on Thursdays. Adrian pulled me aside at one point and said, "You look good, Dad. You look really good." I told him Gloria would have loved the flowers Melissa chose. He agreed, and we stood there quietly for a moment. Then Melissa found me near the bar. She had the manila envelope. She was smiling, but the smile had a structure to it, like a building that looks solid until you find the crack in the foundation. "I have something I need you to sign tonight," she said. "For estate planning purposes, we talked to an attorney." "We talked to an attorney about my estate?" I asked. "For you," she said. To protect you. To make things easier when. She paused. To make things easier eventually. It's just a power of attorney, routine stuff. Donovan appeared at her shoulder, timing that was a little too precise. It's just paperwork, Richard, he said. He had started calling me Richard instead of Dad about 2 years ago, and I had never said anything about it. I should have. I took the envelope, I opened it. It was not a simple power of attorney. It was a durable financial power of attorney that, if signed, would give Melissa full authority over my bank accounts, my investment accounts, and the ability to execute real estate transactions on my behalf. There was also a second document, a quitclaim deed, for my house, transferring ownership to a limited liability company, an LLC I had never heard of. I read it twice. I'm a structural engineer. I know how to read documents. I know what irrevocable means. I know what full authority to transfer means. I put the papers back in the envelope. I'm not signing this tonight, I said. Melissa's smile disappeared. Not faded, disappeared. Like a light switch. Dad, we've been through this. We haven't been through anything. This is the first time I've seen these documents. You're being difficult, Donovan said. Something in my chest got very still, very quiet. I'm going to get another drink, I said. I'll talk to you later, Melissa. I walked away. I could feel them watching me. I went to find Adrian. I found him at a table with his wife, my grandkids asleep against his shoulder. I pulled up a chair. I didn't tell him what had just happened. Not yet. I just sat with him for a while. I watched the room. I watched Melissa and Donovan in the corner, talking low and fast, Donovan's jaw tight. I have been in enough tense negotiations, labor disputes, contractor standoffs, city permitting fights, to know what it looks like when someone has a timeline they need you to cooperate with. I excused myself and stepped outside. I called my attorney. He picked up on the third ring, which surprised me for a Saturday night. I told him what the document said. There was a long pause. Richard, he said, do not sign anything tonight. I wasn't planning to, I said. Those documents, if the LLC is what I think it is, this is not estate planning. This is a transfer. Come see me Monday morning. I said I would. I went back inside. I found Melissa and I told her calmly that I would review the documents with my own attorney before I signed anything. That this was not a reflection of my feelings for her. That I simply needed to understand what I was signing. She cried. Not the way she cried when I gave her the $20,000. A different kind of crying, harder, sharper, with Donovan's hand on her back, rubbing steady circles the way you coach someone through a performance. You don't trust me, she said. I trust you, I said. I'm being careful. There's a difference. I hugged her. I drove home alone. I poured myself a second bourbon and sat in the workshop for an hour. Not building anything, just sitting in the dark with Gloria's hydrangeas visible through the window. I thought about what it meant that she had chosen my birthday party. A room full of people. A celebration of my life. She had chosen that moment deliberately, knowing I would want to avoid a scene. Knowing I would want to make her happy. Knowing I would be softened by the bourbon and the dancing and Adrian's grandkids asleep at the table. She had planned that. My daughter had planned that. I sat with that for a long time. Monday morning I was in my attorney's office at 8:30. His name is Leonard. No, his name is Graham. He'd handled my estate planning, my retirement trust, the transfer of accounts after Gloria died. He was 72 years old and had been practicing law in Fairfax County for 40 years, and he looked at those documents for less than 10 minutes before he set them down and folded his hands. The LLC was formed 8 months ago, he said. Your daughter is the sole member. The quitclaim deed would transfer your home to that LLC with no compensation to you. The power of attorney is durable and immediate, no disability trigger required. Richard, if you would sign this, she could have executed the deed transfer herself the next morning. I asked him what I should do. First, he said, let's look at everything you have and make sure it's protected. Then we decide how you want to handle this. We spent 3 hours that morning going through everything. My accounts, my pension, the house title, a small rental property I owned in Leesburg that I had almost forgotten about. Graham made calls. By the end of the week, I had restructured my estate. The house went into a revocable living trust, with Graham as successor trustee, not Melissa. My accounts had their beneficiaries and access permissions reviewed. The Leesburg property stayed out of Melissa's name, which it already was, but we added documentation to make the ownership chain clear. I also hired a private accountant to review 5 years of financial records, every account Melissa had ever had any visibility into, and I asked Graham to have a forensic look at the $20,000 I'd lent Donovan's business. That took 2 more weeks. What they found was not what I expected. The $20,000 had been deposited not into the landscaping business account, but into a personal account in Donovan's name only. The business had actually received a separate loan from a bank 6 months earlier, which meant the money I had given him, believing I was helping save jobs, helping my daughter's family, had gone somewhere else entirely. When Graham told me that, I sat very quietly for a moment. Then I asked him what our options were. He told me. I chose the option that surprised him. I called Melissa, not to confront her, not to give her a chance to explain. I called her to have a normal conversation, to ask about her week, to hear her voice, to see how she sounded. She sounded normal. She sounded like my daughter. She asked when I was coming to dinner. She said the kids missed me. She had no children. That was a habit of speech she'd developed, talking about the dog as though he were a grandchild. It had always made me smile before. I said I'd come by Sunday. I went to Graham's office Friday and gave him instructions. He had already prepared what we needed because Graham has been doing this a long time and he knew where I was going. Sunday I drove to Melissa's house. She had made pot roast, my favorite. Donovan was there. He poured me a beer I hadn't asked for and sat across the table from me with his forearms on the surface, leaning forward slightly, the posture of a man who believes he is about to close something. We ate. We talked about the Nationals, about Adrian's kids, about the hydrangeas, which Melissa said she had never learned to grow the way Gloria could. I said they were forgiving plants. You just had to water them. After dinner, Melissa brought out the envelope again. Dad, she said, I just need you to understand that this is for your protection. I know what it is, I said. Donovan straightened slightly. Then you understand why it makes sense. I understand what it does, I said. That's not the same thing. I reached into my jacket pocket and placed a letter on the table. Graham had written it, but the words were mine. It detailed in plain language what the documents they had presented me with would have done. It also noted, in plain language, that the $20,000 I had transferred to Donovan had not gone to his business payroll as represented to me, and that this constituted, in Graham's legal opinion, fraudulent misrepresentation. Donovan went white. Melissa's hand went to her mouth. I'm not signing your documents, I said. My house is in a trust. My accounts are not accessible to either of you. I've changed my estate plan. You are still in my will, Melissa. I want you to know that. But the structure has changed, and it cannot be changed without my written instruction and Graham's countersignature. Dad, I'm also asking you to return the $20,000, not because I need it, because I need to know whether that's possible. Donovan stood up. He started talking, fast, explanatory, the kind of talking that is really covering, and I let him talk. I didn't interrupt. When he stopped, I said, I'm going to go home now. I'd like to hear from Melissa by the end of the week. I drove home. I won't tell you that didn't hurt. It hurt more than I want to describe. That night I sat in the workshop again, in the dark, and I thought about the birthday party. The flowers, the dancing, Edna's laugh, Adrian's grandkids asleep, my daughter's smile with the load-bearing crack running through it. I thought about Gloria. I thought about what she would have seen, because she always saw people more clearly than I did. She would have seen Donovan the first Thanksgiving. She would have known. She would have found a way to tell me without making me defensive about it, which was a skill I am still trying to learn from someone who is no longer here to teach me. I watered the hydrangeas. Adrian called on Tuesday. Melissa had called him, apparently, with her version of events. He listened to her, and then he called me. He didn't come in with accusations. He said, Dad, tell me what happened. So I did. The whole thing. When I finished, there was a long pause, and then he said, Did Graham check everything? I said yes. He said, Okay, what do you need from me? That was it. That was my son. He didn't ask me to forgive her immediately. He didn't tell me I was overreacting. He just asked what I needed. I told him I needed someone to have dinner with on Sunday. He said he'd book a flight. Melissa called on Thursday. Not Donovan, Melissa. She called and she cried, and this time the crying was different from both of the previous times. It was thinner, smaller, like something had gone out of it. She said she was sorry. She didn't say for what specifically. I didn't push her on it. I said I heard her. I said I loved her. I said the door was not closed, but things were going to be different. She asked if she was still in the will. I told her yes. She cried again. I asked about the $20,000. She said they would pay it back, $200 a month. I said that was fine. The money was never the point. I want to be clear about that. The money was never the point. Donovan hasn't spoken to me since Sunday. I don't miss it. Here is what I know now, that I should have known earlier. The house you build is not just wood and drywall. It's the sum of everything you decided along the way. What to reinforce, what to leave flexible, where to put the load-bearing walls. I spent 40 years understanding structural integrity in concrete and steel, and I almost let my own foundation get sold out from under me because I confused love with trust. They're not the same thing. Love is what you feel. Trust is what you verify. Gloria knew that. She used to say, you can love someone completely and still not hand them the keys to everything. I didn't understand what she meant until I was standing in a party venue on my fake 70th birthday holding a quitclaim deed for my own house. My estate is in order. My house is mine. Adrian is coming for dinner Sunday, and the grandkids are going to run through the backyard and probably trample the hydrangeas, and I am going to let them, because that's what hydrangeas are for. I didn't lose my house. I didn't lose my son. I didn't lose myself. I might still lose my daughter. Not to death, but to the long, slow distance that grows between people when something breaks and only partially heals. I don't know yet. I'm watering that too. Giving it time. Seeing what comes back. But I am not signing anything I haven't read. Not anymore. Not for anyone. You shouldn't either. I still think about the pot roast. Melissa made it the Sunday I drove over with Graham's letter in my jacket pocket. She knew I loved it. She had made it on purpose. And I ate it, and I meant every bite. Because loving someone and protecting yourself from them are not opposites. I had to learn that the hard way, at 68 years old, at my own birthday party, holding a quitclaim deed for a house I built with money I earned over 4 decades of work. What happened to Melissa didn't happen because she was born a certain way. It happened in steps, small decisions, small rationalizations, a husband who saw a resource instead of a father-in-law, and a daughter who let herself be slowly convinced that what she was doing was reasonable. That's how most of it works. Not a villain deciding to be a villain. Just a person choosing the easier answer enough times in a row that eventually they've crossed a line they can't clearly see anymore. And what saved me wasn't luck. It was that I had spent a lifetime building the habit of reading what I signed, of asking questions, of not letting discomfort in a room pressure me into a decision. I didn't get that from a book. I got it from 40 years of construction contracts and labor negotiations and city inspectors who would smile at you while writing something you didn't want on their clipboard. I got it from Gloria, who used to say that kindness and caution weren't enemies. I almost forgot that. Almost. The integrity part. The doing right by people part. That's what Donovan never understood. He saw my generosity as a weakness to press on. The $20,000 I gave them, I gave freely because I believed it was for something real. When I found out it wasn't, the betrayal wasn't about the money. It was about what the lie revealed. That he had looked at my good faith and seen an opening. A man who does that will keep doing it. There's a pattern underneath it. And you can't love a pattern out of someone. You can only protect yourself from it. Adrian never asked me to forgive Melissa quickly. He never told me I was overreacting. He just asked what I needed, and then he showed up. That's wisdom, not the kind you announce, but the kind you demonstrate when things get hard. I am grateful for that sun every single day. I'm still watering the hydrangeas. Some of them are coming back stronger than they were last year. Others are taking longer. I don't pull up the ones that are slow. I just keep showing up with the hose and giving them time. That's what I know now. You keep your accounts in your own name. You read every document before you sign it. You love your children completely, and you verify the people they bring into your life. You build something worth protecting, and then you protect it, not because you're afraid, but because everything you built has someone's name on it. Gloria's name. Your own. The house is still mine. That's enough.